When you look at the art world in 2026, it seems like it's all about these huge, splashy numbers, right? All this deafening hype. But if you look just a little closer, beneath that surface, there's a much quieter and honestly, a much more interesting story unfolding. It's really a tale of two completely different markets, two different mindsets, somehow existing at the exact same time. On the one hand, you've got this. The massive auction house, the sprawling, jam-packed art fair. It's loud, it's glamorous, and the money involved is just staggering. This is the art world as a global business, a performance. But here's the thing. This is only half the story. So what's really going on here? What's the real story? Is it just a booming market for the super rich? Or is there some kind of quiet revolution happening? Or is it somehow both? That's what we're going to unpack in this explainer. We're going to get to the bottom of where the art world is really heading. Okay, let's start with the money, because it tells a really fascinating story. It's not a simple boom, and it's not a simple bust. Instead, it's like the market has split right down the middle, creating a tale of two very, very different fortunes. So let's just take a moment to look at this number. $236.3 million. That's what Gustav Klimt's Lady with a Fan sold for. It's proof that at the very, very top of the market, money is basically no object. But, and this is a huge but, don't let a number like this fool you. It is absolutely not the whole picture. What's so interesting is that the experts, the people in the know, they aren't calling this a boom. The phrase you keep hearing is a quiet recovery. See, it's not some wild, all-out party like we saw a few years back. It's a much more careful, very selective rebound. Think of it less like a celebration and more like a really intense, calculated chess match. And this chart right here, this shows you exactly what that quiet recovery looks like. It's called a K-shaped recovery. You see the top arm of the K going up? That's your blue chip, historically proven art. It's soaring. But that bottom arm, the one going down, that's the super trendy, ultra-contemporary art that was all the rage a couple of years ago. And it's falling hard. The market is literally splitting in two directions. So what's driving this big split? Well, it's a huge shift in what collectors are actually looking for. People are moving away from chasing the next big thing, that short-term hype. Now it's all about proven quality, a rock-solid ownership history, and real art historical importance. And I find this part fascinating. There's this renewed hunger for the human touch. Things like textiles and ceramics are getting so much attention, and it feels like a direct reaction to the flood of digital, AI-generated stuff out there. All right, so that's the market side of things. Now let's pivot and talk about the artists and the creators. Because this search for something more lasting, something with real substance, isn't just about money. It's a deep, creative shift away from the loud, flashy spectacle of the past and towards something much more collaborative. And there's a perfect metaphor for this whole mood: solidarity in minor keys. It's the theme from the 2026 Venice Biennale. The idea is really simple, but also pretty powerful. Instead of everyone trying to shout in the major keys, these huge, expensive blockbuster statements, the art world is learning to connect in quieter, more intimate minor keys. It's all about building relationships that can actually stick around. This quote just nails it. It's not enough anymore to just make some big political statement with your art. The real question that everyone's asking in 2026 is, okay, but how are we actually building this? Who's involved? Is this just a one-off event, or is this the start of something real and lasting? The process is becoming just as important as the final product. And this isn't just some abstract theory either. It's actually turning into a new playbook for how to make and show art. It's a method that starts with listening, then moves to genuine care, and it's all grounded in the slow, patient work of building relationships that last way longer than a single gallery opening. It's about creating a real infrastructure of solidarity, not just another spectacle. So what does this new philosophy actually look and feel like out in the real world? Well, for one, it's changing the very spaces where we go to experience art. The scale is shrinking way down, but the connections we can make there are getting so much deeper. So instead of those massive, impersonal convention centers for art fairs, we're seeing this turn towards incredibly intimate spaces. A perfect example is a show called Pont, which means embrace. And it didn't happen in some big white-walled gallery. It took place in the curator's own home. The name just says it all, doesn't it? It's about bringing art back to a human, personal scale. And this comparison really gets to the heart of the new strategy. Think about it. A traditional exhibition is super expensive, and it's temporary. It's a flash in the pan. It gathers an audience for a little while. But these new artist-run schools or workshops, they're totally different. They're more sustainable, way more affordable, and most importantly, they don't just find an audience, they build a community. Okay, so we've got a changing market and changing methods. It only makes sense that the people at the center of the art world are changing too. The cast of characters is definitely getting a major shakeup. One of the most powerful and important trends right now is the art world finally correcting its own history. We're seeing these major, long overdue spotlights on trailblazing whims artists, everyone from modern masters like Georgia O'Keeffe to living icons like Judy Chicago. It's a correction for decades of being overlooked. At the same time, the actual map of the art world is being redrawn before our eyes. Sure, the traditional centers like New York are still huge, but new power centers are emerging fast. The Gulf region especially is making these massive investments, launching huge events like Art Basel Qatar, and really shaping the global conversation. And finally, you can't talk about the future without talking about a totally new kind of collector who's shaping it, Gen Z. For this generation, art isn't just an asset you buy and hang on a wall. No way. It's an extension of their personal brand. It's part of their lifestyle. It's woven into their community, both online and off. We're just beginning to see their influence. Okay, so we've looked at these two major currents, right? A market that's getting laser-focused on proven, lasting value, and a creative world that's turning towards deep, sustainable relationships. So what happens when we put it all together? And this is where it all clicks. These aren't two separate stories. The collector demanding quality and the artist trying to build community, they're both reacting to the exact same thing. It's a collective burnout from the fast, speculative, hype-driven frenzy of the early 2020s. Everyone, from all sides, is asking the same fundamental question: what actually lasts? This timeline really maps out the whole psychological journey. We went from that peak of hype and pure speculation a few years ago. Then we went through this necessary and kind of painful period of correction and adjustment. And that's brought us to right now, in 2026, a much more sober, intentional search for real quality and meaning. And all of this leaves us with the one big question for the future. As all the noise dies down and the hype finally fades, the art world is facing this fundamental choice. In this collective search for what endures, what are we as a culture ultimately going to decide is worth keeping? What is truly valuable?